Hi, I'm Jeff from New York. Please like and subscribe.
Young Billionaire, Season 2, Episode 12, A Sick Day.
Get over here.
Diane's mother, Emily, shouted as she slapped her hand down on the table. Diane was so startled that she jumped.
Jeff,
Diane said, glancing timidly at him.
those are my parents. You can leave if you want to.
He simply smiled and calmly walked over with her to the table. Jeff knew that if he left, Diane would be in even more trouble, and since he had already promised to help her get rid of James, this seemed like a good opportunity to achieve that. Her parents glared at them as they approached.
Why aren't you at work?
Emily demanded anxiously, pulling Diane to stand beside her.
What are you doing here?
I called in sick.
Diane whispered. Her parents had always been very strict, and even now she was afraid to stand up to them.
What?
Emily asked, feeling anxious and angry.
Your daughter should get back to work. Didn't you tell me that your bank is undergoing some personnel changes and that you have a good chance of being promoted? And weren't you in line for a huge bonus? So why are you pulling a stunt like this? Do you care so little about your prospects?
You're almost 30 years old.
Her father Alan said with a frown.
You can't keep relying on me and your mom.
He looked at Diane and pointed at Jeff.
You lied to your boss and to your family just to date this kid. Is it worth it?
Diane lowered her head as her parents scolded her. When her father spoke about Jeff, she sneaked a glance at him, afraid that he would get angry.
Look at him. What did I do to deserve a daughter like you?
Alan raised his hand to slap Diane, but Jessa and James stopped him. Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez, don't be angry, James said, trying to smooth things over. Diane hasn't been caught, so there won't be any problems with her promotion or her bonus.
Not this time.
Alan said, looking at Jeff.
But if she doesn't break off contact with this kid, she'll definitely end up in trouble. At some point, her luck will run out and her boss will catch her.
Jeff was speechless. He hadn't even done anything. Diane's father was a weirdo. Diane just stood there, her sniffling pitifully and feeling wrong. Diane, you can't blame your parents, James said, standing and walking toward her. They're just looking out for you. He put his hand on her shoulder to comfort her.
Get lost.
Diane yelled violently, pushing him away and glaring at him.
Why are you eating with my parents? I already told you. There is nothing between us, and I was very clear that there is no way we will ever be together.
How dare you?
Emily said, standing abruptly and slapping Diane hard on her bottom.
Why shouldn't James eat with us? If it's so impossible for you to be with James, then who do you plan on dating?
Alan knew how important James was. His family was very powerful, and Diane was lucky to have caught his eye. James was the best choice for her, and yet his stupid daughter had rejected him. After her mother hit her, Diane's temper boiled over. She knew that her parents had urged her to be with James because of his wealth, but they didn't know that James was nothing compared to the young man they were insulting. She had made the right choice, so she wasn't going to back down. No matter how much her parents hated Jeff right now, she was going to marry him. Then, when his identity was made known, they would know how stupid they had been and would understand why she was doing this.
I can make my own decisions.
She said stubbornly. She glared at James and said,
I don't like you, so get lost. Stay away from me and my family.
Diane's behavior stunned everyone present. James knew that Diane didn't like him, so he had intentionally chosen to use her parents to get closer to her. In the beginning, it had worked quite well, but now it seems that her parents were unable to control her. Diane, don't be like this, James said. You're too emotional right now, so try to calm down. I didn't even know you'd be here. I just came to have lunch with your parents. It's not about you.
Yes, Diane.
Jessa said.
I came with James, so I know he's not stalking you.
I don't care if you're stalking me or not.
Diane said firmly to James.
I want you to get out of my sight and never bother me again.
James, Alan, and Emily were stunned. Why was Diane behaving like this? What had this boy done to her to make her act this way? Diane, are you really going to leave me for this damn loser? James asked. He knew that this was all because of Jeff. James was a rich man, so how could he accept losing out to a poor kid? He pointed at Jeff and asked, Diane, how can he compare to me? I could buy you a house downtown. I could drape you in diamonds. Can he do these things? My family is old and powerful. What about his? In every single way, I am superior. So how can he possibly compete with me? Don't be impulsive. He continued. Marriage is not simple matter. He can't even give you the life you deserve, and he can't protect you. Don't be silly. Listen to me. If you come back to me, I'll treat you well. He reached out to touch her shoulder.
Get lost.
Diane said.
It's none of your business who I choose to marry.
She knew James wasn't listening to her, so she gave up.
Come on, Jeff, let's go.
She took his hand and turned to leave.
Stop.
Emily ordered. She was furious with her daughter.
Don't you dare speak to us like that. The older you are, the worse your behavior becomes. Don't even think of leaving.
Emily and Jessa pulled Diane back.
Young men, you must have some good tricks up your sleeves.
Emily said, glaring at Jeff.
You've certainly fooled my daughter.
Her eyes narrowed as she realized that Jeff was the key to solving this problem. Jeff grunted, speechlessly.
What had I done to have Diane's mother treat him like this?
Hey, do you really expect to marry my daughter?
Emily demanded.
In your dreams.
She had disliked Jeff from the moment she had first laid eyes on him.
You really think you're good enough for my daughter?
Alan asked angrily, coming to stand in front of him.
Well, tell us then. Why should we let you marry her?
He spat in Jeff's face.
Why should I answer to you?
Jeff asked. He was the heir of the powerful Florento family, so what right did these people have to question him? Who did they think they were?
Hey, listen to this kid.
Alan said with dissatisfaction.
And he thinks he can marry my daughter with that attitude. Well, think again.
Uncle Alan.
Jessa said.
He can't answer you because he's a coward. But if he won't tell you, I will. I go to the same school as him.
She wasn't sure why her cousin no longer cared about James, but she knew that she couldn't let Diane miss out on such a rich man.
At school, he's well known for being poor.
She explained.
He wears the same few items of clothing all the time. Everyone bullies him, and he doesn't dare to fight back. He works in a convenience store and in the school cafeteria, and once he even asked people for money in front of a restaurant. He was asking for money?
Emily asked, shocked. If Diane stayed with him, it would be a disgrace.
Get out!
She said, pushing Jeff.
Stay away from my daughter.
As Diane's parents were telling you now, we won't allow you to date her.
Alan warned him.
So stop dreaming about marrying her. Do you hear me?
He pointed at Jeff and said,
Do not harass my daughter again. Do you understand?
Say what you like, but don't point your finger at me.
Jeff said.
Watch your temper.
Alan said, eager to make his point.
I'll point at you if I like.
He poked his finger into Jeff's chest and added,
Don't go anywhere near my daughter again, you stinking loser.
Jeff could no longer swallow his anger. He pushed Alan, causing him a stagger and almost fall.
Don't you dare push my husband.
Emily yelled, raising her hand to slap Jeff's face. But Diane jumped in front of him, hugging him tightly, and Emily's hand smacked off the back of Diane's head.